Mike's first fight, at age 17, lasted only 25 seconds before they told him enough. The air in the small, dimly lit gymnasium hung heavy with the scent of sweat, liniment, and decades of accumulated grit. The paint on the walls was peeling, revealing layers of faded colors beneath, a testament to the building's long history as a breeding ground for fighters. The ring, elevated in the center of the cramped space, was worn and stained, its canvas bearing the marks of countless battles, its ropes frayed and discolored. This was not Madison Square Garden, not a glittering arena filled with thousands of roaring fans. This was the Catskill Boxing Club in upstate New York, a humble, no-frills training facility where raw talent was forged into disciplined skill, where dreams were either realized or shattered. It was 1983, and seated in a folding chair near the corner of the ring was Cus D'Amato, a legendary trainer whose piercing gaze and unwavering belief in his fighters had produced champions. Beside him sat his protege, a 17-year-old boy named Mike Tyson. Mike was a physical anomaly, his body a compact mass of explosive muscle, his neck thick and powerful, his arms like coiled springs. But it was his eyes that truly set him apart, dark, intense, burning with a barely contained fury that seemed to simmer just beneath the surface. He wore simple black trunks and worn boxing gloves, his face a mask of focused concentration. Across the ring stood his opponent, a local amateur fighter named Robert Collet. Collet was older, more experienced, with a record of several wins. He was taller than Mike, with a longer reach, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had been in the ring many times before. He bounced on his toes, shadowboxing, his eyes assessing Mike with a mixture of curiosity and mild condescension. To Collet, this was just another sparring session, another opportunity to test his skills against a newcomer. He had heard whispers about this Tyson kid, about his power, but he dismissed them as hype, as the exaggerations of an overzealous trainer. The small crowd that had gathered, perhaps 20 people in total, consisted mostly of other fighters from the gym, a few local boxing enthusiasts, and a handful of curious onlookers. They sat on rickety bleachers, their conversations a low murmur, their eyes fixed on the ring. They had come to see the kid that Cus D'Amato had been raving about, the one he claimed would be a champion. But most were skeptical, having seen countless young fighters come and go, their potential never fully realized. The referee, a grizzled veteran named Jimmy, stepped into the center of the ring, his voice a gravelly rasp. "All right, boys, keep it clean. Touch gloves and come out fighting." Mike and Collet moved to the center, their gloves touching briefly, a perfunctory gesture of sportsmanship. Collet offered a confident smirk, a silent message that he wasn't intimidated. Mike, however, remained expressionless, his gaze fixed on Collet with an unsettling intensity. The bell rang, a sharp metallic clang that echoed through the small gym, signaling the start of the fight. Collet immediately moved forward, his jab extended, testing Mike's defenses, trying to establish his range. He circled to his left, his footwork smooth and practiced, a textbook approach. Mike, however, didn't circle, he didn't dance. He simply moved forward, his head tucked low, his body coiled like a spring ready to explode. Collet threw a jab, a quick, probing shot aimed at Mike's face. Mike slipped it with a barely perceptible movement of his head, the punch whistling harmlessly past his ear. Collet threw another jab, then a right cross, trying to find an opening. Mike slipped both punches with the same effortless precision, his movements economical, almost lazy, but devastatingly effective. He was inside Collet's reach now, too close for the taller fighter to effectively use his jab. Then, in a blur of motion that seemed to defy the laws of physics, Mike unleashed his attack. It wasn't a single punch, but a combination, a devastating flurry of hooks and uppercuts delivered with such speed and power that they seemed to merge into one continuous, explosive force. A left hook to the body, a sickening thud that drove the air from Collet's lungs. A right uppercut to the chin, a thunderous crack that snapped Collet's head back violently. Another left hook, this time to the temple, a blow so powerful that Cole's legs buckled instantly. The entire sequence lasted perhaps 3 seconds. Cole, his eyes glazed and unfocused, crumpled to the canvas like a marionette whose strings had been cut. He landed hard, his body limp, his arms splayed out at unnatural angles. The small crowd, which had been murmuring quietly, erupted in a collective gasp, then fell into stunned, absolute silence. They had just witnessed something extraordinary, something terrifying. A display of raw, primal power that seemed almost inhuman. Jimmy, the referee, immediately rushed to Cole's side, waving his arms frantically, signaling the end of the fight. And if you're wondering what kind of power a 17-year-old boy could possess to end the fight in mere seconds, or what happens when raw talent meets years of disciplined training, then you absolutely need to hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you won't want to miss the truth that's about to unfold, a truth that will show you the birth of a legend. This story is far from over, and the real consequences are about to be delivered. Stop! Stop! That's enough, Jimmy shouted, his voice filled with alarm. He knelt beside Cole, checking his pulse, his breathing, his eyes. Cole was conscious but barely, his eyes rolling back in his head, his body trembling. The gym's medic, an older man named Doc Harris, rushed into the ring, his medical bag in hand. He quickly assessed Cole's condition, checking for signs of serious injury. The crowd remained silent, their faces a mixture of shock, awe, and a dawning, terrifying realization. They had just witnessed the birth of something extraordinary, something that would change the world of boxing forever. Cus D'Amato, who had been watching from his corner, rose slowly from his chair. His face, usually stern and impassive, now held a flicker of satisfaction, a quiet vindication of his belief. He had seen it, the raw, untapped potential, and he had spent years honing it, shaping it, transforming a troubled, angry boy into a focused, disciplined fighter. He walked to the edge of the ring, his gaze fixed on Mike, who stood in the center, his chest heaving slightly, his expression unchanged. Mike looked at Cus, seeking approval, seeking validation. Cus simply nodded, a small, almost imperceptible movement, but it was enough. Jimmy, still kneeling beside Cole, looked up at the timekeeper. "How long?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The timekeeper, a young man with a stopwatch, checked the time, his eyes widening in disbelief. 25 seconds, he said, his voice barely a whisper. The fight lasted 25 seconds. ... A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd, the number sinking in, the sheer, undeniable reality of what they had just witnessed. 25 seconds. It had taken Mike Tyson only 25 seconds to completely dismantle an experienced fighter, to reduce him to a crumpled heap on the canvas. Doc Harris, after completing his examination, helped Cole to his feet. Cole was wobbly, disoriented, his face pale and clammy. He looked at Mike, not with anger, but with a mixture of fear and profound respect. He had been in the ring with many fighters, but he had never experienced anything like this, never felt such overwhelming, devastating power. He nodded at Mike, a silent acknowledgement of his superiority, then allowed Doc Harris to lead him out of the ring, his career forever marked by those 25 seconds. Mike Tyson, still standing in the center of the ring, slowly removed his gloves. He looked at his hands, powerful instruments of destruction, then at Cus, who was now climbing into the ring. Cus placed a hand on Mike's shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. "That's what I've been waiting to see, Mike," Cus said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "That's the power, the speed, the precision. You're not just a fighter, Mike. You're a force of nature." Mike nodded, his expression still serious, but a flicker of satisfaction appeared in his eyes. He had proven himself, not just to Cus, but to himself. The small crowd, which had been silent, now erupted in applause, a spontaneous outpouring of respect and awe. They had come to see a sparring session, but they had witnessed the birth of a legend. Word of Mike Tyson's 25-second knockout spread quickly through the boxing community, a whispered legend that grew with each retelling. Promoters, trainers, and fighters all wanted to see this phenomenon, this 17-year-old kid with the power of a heavyweight champion. And Mike Tyson, guided by Cus D'Amato's unwavering belief and his own relentless dedication, would go on to fulfill that promise, becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in history, a testament to the power of raw talent, disciplined training, and an unbreakable will. That first fight, lasting only 25 seconds, was not just a victory. It was a declaration, a statement to the world that a new force had arrived, a force that would dominate, terrify, and ultimately redefine the sport of boxing. And it all began in a small, dimly lit gymnasium in Catskill, New York, where a 17-year-old boy proved that sometimes 25 seconds is all you need to change everything. Respect isn't just earned over time. It can be claimed in an instant with undeniable power. Silent doesn't mean powerless. Sometimes the quietest person carries the greatest power, and the most profound lessons are taught not with words, yet with the devastating, instant truth of what you're truly capable of achieving.